Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Wonderful.
Excellent, yes. For anyone just tuning in, the boys are recording from Buenos Aires. And it's very early in the morning for them, and it's 10 o'clock at night for me, which would make it 7 o'clock for you, is it, Swanee?
Yes, 10 past 7. That's right, yep.
So we are in 3 different time zones, and I think
quite
it's showing.
significantly now, yeah.
Very, very different.
You're doing well, Schmitty.
Oh, it's all right. I'm just the Energizer Bunny, as always. I suppose we should introduce ourselves. I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are...
Trial by Wine.
Beautiful. And what are we drinking? Clarky's had a few coffees, I can see.
I'm going to go straight to it. Coffee.
He's having another one. Swanee just held up, was it a mineral water?
Mineral water, yep.
I just don't understand. It's 7 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, Swanee.
Different.
Why there's no rose in your hand, I don't understand. I've moved on, however, to a gin and tonic. And this is predominantly because there was just one glass worth of tonic left in the bottle. And so I poured it out so I could give the empty bottle to the dog to play with to keep him quiet earlier. And so I just thought, I won't waste it. I'll just have a little G&T through this next episode. So that's me. And
cheeky one. Nice.
Nice, different, unusual. Speaking of episodes and stories, whose story is it?
You know it's mine. It's mine.
Oh,
it's mine.
yours.
It's nice.
All
It's
right.
mine.
Oh, all right. Well, go for it.
Yes, I have one. Okay,
Excellent.
So I'm continuing the theme of crimes from places I've been. So remember last time we did the Iceland
We could be
one?
here all night. You've been everywhere, man.
Around the world.
I tell
Absolutely.
you what, it's hard to remember where I am. But so this one is from when we were in Milan.
Okay.
So I'll tell you my forces first. My
Okay.
sources first. It's a very long list, and I need to let you know. So it's because there's a lot of bits and pieces I had to piece together to make this story, and the translation was often not clear. So I've pieced it all together as best I possibly could from, a snippet here and a snippet there. Remember, Swanee, you were talking about the dollar value being strange in your last story
Yes.
with the amount that they defrauded.
It changed a bit, yeah.
The facts were like this in this story, so I've put it together in the best way that I possibly could from what I
So
understood.
just do a range of facts. It's
Exactly
between
right.
this fact and that fact.
You can just choose the fact you like.
Yeah, which
I've
is
given you the source. Pick which one you like.
well, it's kind of like that.
I know.
It's kind of like that because when you're doing financials, it's easier to give a range. When you're actually talking about facts with crimes, it's a lot harder, particularly when the details aren't clear. Anyway, So my sources are Wikipedia, Reddit, napolike.it, churchiamodenice.it, Designer Women, Life in Italy, Italian Post, L'Union Sarda, article by Marzio Pellu. I couldn't even find a proper link to that one. Acrimonia, Pledge Times, English News, Italy 24 Press News, mdpi.com, globalmissingkids.org, data.unhcr.org, globalhappenings.com, infomigrants.net, lifeinitaly.com, and Facebook.
That's quite extensive, Jules Verne. Well done.
I don't know. Is Facebook a source?
It took me a lot.
Okay.
Well, it is. It is.
Okay.
Where do you find the time when you're travelling around the world?
Well, it must be something to do with not having a job anymore.
Planes and airports.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, planes and airports are good. Yeah.
Can I call you Jules Verne? Do you mind?
Anyway.
Around the world in 80 days?
Sure, you can call me whatever you like, darling. Yes, you can. I think we've been away for longer than 80 days already now. July, August, September. So this is the story of Denise Pipitone. a young Italian girl who went missing in 2004. It's a sad story of a lost child and how heavily it impacts the remaining victims, family and others close to the child. The story has some complex relationships that play out as a result of the investigation. Yes. I'm going to need you to bring your A-grade humour to this one. And of course, there's also heavy media involvement. So if you haven't already, pour yourselves a drink, strap yourself in to your favourite chair and let's begin. So as I said, it's a story of a missing child. So I thought I'd start by sharing some stats on child abduction. Once you start looking into it, it's super prevalent.
Absolutely.
So it's important to note that up front that the data can be really unreliable for a number of reasons. The varying definitions of a missing child, the way that things are recorded or reported. Lots of them don't get reported. Very strange. So anyway, just a quick whip around the world for the number of children that go missing. So in Australia, an estimated 20,000 children are reported missing every year.
What?
Which I found shocking. That's a lot.
Whoa, I didn't think you were going to say that.
In Canada, an estimated 45,288, very specific, children are reported missing each year. In Germany, an estimated 100,000 are reported missing each year.
Sorry, with the Canadian ones, do you know how many of those are Indigenous? Because there are massive statistics around Indigenous children and women, crimes against women, etc. in Canada. No? Okay. Moving on.
Yeah, right. No, I don't. But I mean, if Germany's 100,000, I think it's probably proportionate. India, an estimated 96,000. Jamaica, 1,984.
Clarky?
In Russia, estimated 4,500. Yeah.
What is the definition of a missing child? Does it have to be the report from the moment it's been reported, or you have to be missing for a period of time, or what constitutes like a recorded number? I guess it's different from one locality to another.
So these are estimated and they're reported, right? So I guess it has to be reported for it to be included. And I read in one of the articles that there was a whole thing. It might have been the UNHCR one. Charts everywhere of the number of people reported. So they're looking at something like 111 phone lines and the stats from the phone lines where children are reported missing.
So if you were reported missing this morning and found in a couple of
hours
hours later, you'd still be counted in that? Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So, in Russia, an estimated 45,000. In Spain, an estimated 20,000. UK, an estimated 112,000. US, 460,000. And in Italy, so back to where our story comes from, they reckon that about 30 to 35 kids go missing each day, which works out at 11,000. So they're big numbers to me.
Yeah.
Importantly, I guess, the as I said, statistics on missing children are not even available in some countries. And even when they are, they can be inaccurate due to underreporting, under-recognition, inflation of numbers, incorrect database entry of case information, and deletion of records once a case is closed. So in Italy, globalhappenings.com reports that approximately 70% of the children that go missing are foreigners and 30% are Italian nationals. And of the missing Italian children, 72% were found, whereas only 31% of the foreigners were found. So whilst Italian minors who go missing often report family problems, cyberbullying and drug-related motives as reasons for their disappearance, foreign children and especially unaccompanied minors are often motivated by other factors, which usually involve migrating elsewhere. Foreign children are often harder to find as they often enter the country through irregular means, which can then lead to them being placed in Italy's migrant hosting system from which they often escape. So it's quite a complex issue, as you can imagine. All children, however, face serious risks, including becoming victims of trafficking and exploitation. The International Centre for Missing and Exploited Children has numerous categories of missing children, including but not limited to endangered runaways, so where the child voluntarily leaves home without permission of his or her parents or custodian, family abduction, the taking, keeping or concealment of one or more children by a parent, other family member or custodian, non-family abduction, the forcible and unauthorised taking of a child by someone other than a family member, lost, injured or otherwise missing, a child who has disappeared under circumstances that are unknown and difficult to determine, abandoned or unaccompanied child, a child who is not accompanied by an adult legally responsible for him or her, including those travelling alone without custody permission. Those separated by an emergency, those in a refugee situation, and those who have been abandoned or otherwise left without adult care. So you get the picture. Heaps of kids go missing each year for a whole range of reasons. Data is unreliable, and there are huge challenges when it comes to finding missing children. Let's go back to Denise Pipitone. So Denise was born on the 26th of October in 2000 and lived with her parents, Piera Maggio and Tony Pipitone, in Mazara del Vallo in the Trapani area of Italy. So it's kind of a bit outside of Milan, but in that area of Italy. She was like any other child of the time, loved by her parents and living an uneventful life, just completely normal. However, things would change for her on the 1st of September 2004. On that day, she was staying with her grandmother and playing with her cousins out the front of their home. Her cousins lived close to their grandmother's house, and it was common for them to play in the street between the two houses. Their grandmother was preparing lunch for Denise, whilst her aunt was preparing food for her cousins. At around 11:45 a.m, Denise's aunt called the cousins in for lunch, and Denise was left out the front of the quiet street in Via Labruno, waiting for her grandmother to call her for lunch. Her aunt saw Denise start heading back to the grandmother's house. That was the last time she was seen. Denise's mother, Piera Maggio, was taking a computer course and learned of the incident around 12:30 p.m. News spread quickly, and by 2 p.m, the local media were reporting the case, which quickly became a national story. Posters were put up in public places declaring Denise was missing and enlisting the help of the community to find her. So it all happened quickly. It wasn't one of those ones where someone goes missing and they wait 48 hours to...
That's very quick.
Or anything like that. Yeah. Super quick, right?
Yeah.
It was really quick. The family and police engaged in a relentless search for little Denise, desperate to find her. Dozens of tips were received, however, investigations did not produce any solid leads. However, on the 18th of October in 2004, Felice Greco, a security guard, reported seeing a group of gypsies with children out the front of the Bank of Milan, and that one of the children looked strikingly like Denise. He was so sure that it was her that he managed to stop the group for a moment and recorded some footage of the little girl on his phone. The video he captured revealed a woman referring to the little girl who looked like Denise as Denise, and the little girl asked, "Where are you taking me?" to the woman. Felice observed that the little girl had a scratch on her cheek, which is a mark that Denise had at the time, and furthermore, the accent of the little girl was similar to Sicilian, like that of those from the region of Mazara Del Vallo. The police were called, however, by the time they arrived and began searching the area for the little girl, the group were gone. The footage was later closely analysed by police, and it revealed that the facial features of the girl had similarities with Denise and that there was a high likelihood that this was Denise. So it's pretty incredible how quickly this happens, I think, and how thorough they are. And I think it's important to note that it wasn't, for me, there was nothing in this that seemed like the police did a shitty job or the parents weren't super committed to finding her. So the story continued in the media, and as we've seen in so many cases, the gossip and the rumours follow. So this put pressure on the relationship between Tony and Piera. Questions were asked of what happened to Denise, and rumours started surfacing, questioning if Tony was the real father. Dun, dun, dun. Let's jump back to 1999 when Tony Pipitone was working in Germany whilst his wife Piera lived at home in Mazara Del Vallo with their eldest son Kevin.
Tony Pipitone.
Tony Pipitone.
You know it.
I love it. Tony Pipitone.
Exactly. Yeah. So Tony was unable to have children, and the two decided to have a child via artificial insemination, which led to the birth of Kevin. They continued to try for a second child whilst Tony was travelling. Yeah, Kevin Pipitone.
I feel like we've just moved down the street from where we are now. Someone would be called Kevin Pipitone. Are you seriously saying some kid called...
Yeah.
In Italy? Kevin Pipitone.
Yeah.
Neither of you studied Italian, did you? With the Avanti books.
No.
The Avanti books said Dario and Angela and Kevin.
No.
They did?
Kevin, yeah.
Oh!
Yeah.
Did they really?
Yes. Dario is sempre in ritardo. I can't remember what Kevin
Dario,
was.
I get. Kevin? Not so much. I'm surprised
Dario
by
was
that.
always late.
Kevin.
But I can't remember what
I think
Kevin
we'll call
did.
him
But there was a Kevin in it, yeah. Yeah.
Kevin bloody Pipitone.
Angela,
We'll call him
Laura.
Kev.
Laura, yeah.
All the others were very Italian except for Kevin. Yeah.
I think your Italian's very nice, Schmitty.
Thank you.
One of these kids is not like
But
the other
one.
Kevin.
Anyway, we shouldn't make fun of Kevin. So
we aren't.
They continued to try for a second child whilst Tony was travelling a lot for fun. I'm just saying back to the story.
Okay.
And the Kevin who isn't...
No offence, Kev.
Yeah.
Isn't material.
Right. So, what... Yeah.
Right.
One day, whilst Tony was away in Germany, Piera's sister Giacomo introduced her to a friend of hers named Anna Corona. The two hit it off and became close friends. They spent lots of time together until Anna began to suspect that Piera may be a little closer to her husband Pietro Polizzi than she should have been. Could it be that they were having an affair behind the backs of their respective spouses, Anna and Tony? So Piera fell pregnant around the turn of the millennia and Denise was born later that year. Piera and Tony were overjoyed with the arrival of Denise. However, their marriage broke down as Tony was so often not home and the two separated. And Piera is quoted in one of the things as saying that it was a facade because he was always in Germany. He came back a couple of times a year. She saw him a couple of times a year, but they really, they weren't living together. As Denise grew, Anna saw what she believed were obvious similarities between her husband Pietro and the daughter Denise. She began to suspect that Pietro was in fact the father, not Tony. This led to the breakdown of her marriage, and Anna and Pietro divorced. Their two children, Jessica and Alice, were convinced that this was the fault of Piera and developed a deep hatred of her. So just to go back, so Anna and Pietro had two children, Jessica and Alice, and then Denise is the child of Tony and Piera.
Sorry,
and go
back to the other couple. What were their names?
Anna and Pietro.
Anna and Pietro. Pietro and Piera are confusing the shit out of me. Right. Okay. Anna and Pietro and Piera and Tony and Anthony. Okay. Right. Got it. Right. Antonio.
Just to share some of the challenges I had researching this, they would often mix up the words her and him. So trying to work out who they were actually talking about was super challenging when they would say, they didn't know that this was her child when in fact they meant it was his child, and it was really, really confusing.
Yeah.
So Jessica and Alice blame Piera for the breakdown of their parents' marriage and they hate it. So Anna Corona and her daughter Jessica, who was 17 at the time of Denise's disappearance, reportedly threatened Piera and her sister Giacomo. So the sister Giacomo ran a herbalist shop and was mysteriously destroyed by fire. And then another time Piera discovered that her car's tyres had been slashed. Public insults occurred, including intimidation and curses, and police began to watch the two women closely. They deemed that they should conduct a search of Anna's house. However, when they turned up to search the home, Anna sneakily misled them by greeting them at her neighbour's house, which they looked through. That's a good scam, isn't it?
Sounds like
Hi, come into my house, which is really
someone
not
else's
my house.
Yeah. She writes down notes. Pretend you live somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. Greet them next door.
Yep.
Oh, no, I'm over here. So police later discovered that Anna had met them at the wrong house, which they thought was very suspicious.
Oh,
however, in the meantime, they discovered that Anna had a rock-solid alibi at the time of Denise's disappearance. She was working as a cleaner at a local hotel and was seen by many of her colleagues, and her house was not subsequently searched as a result of that alibi. Her daughter Jessica, however, did not have a rock-solid alibi on the day Denise disappeared. She stated that at 12 p.m. on that day, she went to visit her mother at the hotel where she was working. So Denise goes missing at 11:45 roughly, and at 12 p.m. she goes to visit the mum. But there's nothing to corroborate that. Jessica was investigated for kidnapping, and her boyfriend Gaspari Galeb was alleged to have given false testimony and couldn't explain what he did on the day of Denise's disappearance. He said that he stayed asleep until 12:30 and didn't hear anyone even on the phone. But his telephone number was engaged in a conversation with Jessica Polizzi at 9:39 a.m. and subsequently at 10:21 of the same morning that Denise disappeared. So there's some shonky goings on. So police set up phone taps to try to find more evidence. And at one point, they recorded a call between Jessica and Alice, who are the two sisters. Mm-hmm. It was recorded on the day that Alice was to testify to the prosecutor's office. So the bit that they reported was Jessica says, when we were home, Mum killed Denise. Alice says, did Mum kill Denise? Jessica says, you mustn't talk about it. And Alice says, I know. It's a very strange conversation. I like that Jessica says, when we're at home, Mum killed Denise. And then when Alice says, did Mum kill Denise? Don't talk about it.
Shush, don't talk about it. It's a secret.
Yeah.
All right. I know, right?
Yeah, I know. Stop it. Union Sada reports that there was another intercepted phone call between Anna Corona and her daughter Alice, in which Anna says, do you want to know who it was? It was Giuseppe and I. However, there is no context to the statement in the intercepted phone call. So there was nothing in the phone call that says
just ignore that then, right?
Yeah, who ate Denise.
No. The question was about who ate the leftover pizza from last night. It was Giuseppe and I.
Yeah, correct. It was Giuseppe and I. And we'll get to who Giuseppe was shortly because he's a new character. According to another witness, Anna Corona also said the child's dead. Piera's heart must be burned. As in broken, not as in we're going to cut it out and burn it.
All right.
Just want to make that clear. And again, probably a bit of lost in translation. So all of these the conversations are super interesting and get you, I guess, get your mind going about what might have happened, but they don't provide any conclusive evidence to the disappearance of Denise. The Giuseppe that Anna may have been referring to in her conversation is Giuseppe Della Key, who was another suspect in the investigation. So he is the nephew of Battista Della Key, who was a deaf-mute witness. And that's important. Mm-hmm. Battista, who is now deceased, had revealed that he had seen little Denise in a shed in Mazara Del Vallo in the arms of Giuseppe. According to Battista Della Key's story, the child was kidnapped and taken with a scooter to a pier wrapped in a blanket before being loaded onto a boat. Della Key's testimony was collected by the lawyer Giacomo Frazzetta, Denise's family lawyer, and it was bitterly contested by the family members of Giuseppe because they said that Battista didn't know any sign language and that he would have just used gestures, which were misinterpreted by the lawyer. So super sketchy, and due to the poor translation of it all, it appears that Giuseppe was put to a magistrate. I couldn't really work this bit out, but it appears he went before a magistrate to determine if he had been involved, and he had the help of a consultant, which possibly is a lawyer, and he availed himself of the right not to answer. So the prosecutors were keen to solve the case, and Jessica was put on trial for the abduction of Denise. According to the prosecutors, Denise was abducted by Jessica with the complicity of her mother, Anna. Police also alleged that Jessica's ex-fiancé, Gaspare Galeb, was involved. The reason was revenge and jealousy because Denise and Jessica are daughters of the same father. And, of course, that split up the parents' marriage. You can kind of see a motive, maybe. I'm not sure you'd steal a child.
I don't know. Steal a child or kill a child. I don't know about that. Yeah, okay.
Jessica was charged with complicity in kidnapping a minor and was arraigned by the preliminary hearing judge of Marsala on the 18th of January 2010. The first instance trial began on March the 16th, 2010, lasting for over 3 years.
Goodness.
The public prosecutor recommended the sentence of 15 years of imprisonment for child abduction, deeming her undoubtedly guilty due to a series of clear, unambiguous and convergent clues. That's what the prosecutor was recommending. According to the indictment, on the morning of September the 1st, 2004, Jessica took Denise to the home of Piero Polizzi to confirm that she was his daughter, but not finding him, handed the child to unidentified people. However, upon completion of the trial, Jessica was acquitted by the court on the 27th of June 2013 for, you guessed it, a lack of evidence. So that was appealed, and on October the 2nd, 2015, she was again acquitted, rejecting the request for the sentence of 15 years of imprisonment. Prosecutor Scuduto, during her indictment, claimed that Jessica had taken part in the abduction of Denise and therefore should be found guilty On April the 19th, 2017, the Court of Cassation confirmed the final acquittal of Jessica Polizzi, but at the same time points to the existence of a valid and proven motive. At the end of the second-degree trial, the statute of limitations intervened against the charges of the co-defendant, so they couldn't go any further. They also did an inquiry into Anna Corona, and that was closed by the investigating judge of Marsala on December the 13th. So there were several other sightings of Denise. There was one in 2008 on the island of Kos in Greece. So an Italian nurse on holiday on the Greek island of Kos said he saw a little girl who looked very much like Denise. The child was in the company of an Albanian woman who she claimed to be her mother. However, on September the 12th, 2008, a DNA test ruled out definitively that the child was Denise Pipitone and confirmed her as the daughter. So it was a false sighting.
Oh, for God's sake.
And the reason I'm telling you this is...
How would you be?
From the parents' point of view...
But how would you be? You're just wandering around on the Greek island and suddenly someone's coming up demanding a DNA test of your child. You know, like, what?
Correct. Exactly right. What? And also for the parents, you know, that would play out...
The false hope.
...fairly publicly, so bring it all back. So in 2021... 16 and a half years after Denise's disappearance, a 20-year-old woman appears on Russian TV. The program is called Let Them Talk, and she's on the program to tell her story in an attempt to find her family. Her name is Alicia Rostova, a name given to her by the Russian orphanage in which she grew up. She remembers nothing of her family, nor her original name, and she has no identification documents. She's the same age as Denise would be at the time. Denise was 4 when she was kidnapped, and Alicia was about 5 years old when she was found in a Roma camp in Russia with a nomadic woman and placed in an orphanage. Alicia tells of her memories as a child, of being kidnapped, growing up with a Roma woman, a gypsy woman, who she believed was her mother and who leads her to beg. Alicia tells how she ended up in a Roma camp in Russia where the police discovered that the Roma woman was not her mother, and Alicia was sent to an orphanage where she grows up. She's on the TV program to find her family and makes a tear-filled appeal. "Mummy," she says, "I've never forgotten you. I would like to meet you and find you." A nurse who lives in Moscow is watching the show, and she sees the face of that 20-year-old girl who was looking for her mother, who made an appeal because she said she was kidnapped as a child and has no recollection of her family. The nurse remembers the story of Denise Pipitone. She searches on Google for the photos of Piero Maggio, compares them with those of Alicia, and notices the resemblance. She then contacts the Russian TV station to let them know of the similarities with Denise Pipitone, and the TV show contacts Piero's lawyer, Giacomo Frazita. This was also super hard to find the connection between the TV show and how that
got it swayed back to Italy
and connected back to Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was the best explanation that I could find of it. There was a whole lot of talk of the way it played out in the media between the two countries as well, because it's obviously started in TV in Russia and now it makes its way to the news. So Giacomo is invited to participate in a follow-up show that will compare the results of a blood type test from Alicia with a blood type of Denise. Cue the media circus.
Mm-hmm.
So they've literally done this television program where this poor woman is looking for her family, and now someone said it could be Denise, and so the media just explodes. So is Alicia actually Denise? The question goes all over the news in both Rome and Moscow. Everyone's got an opinion. You know, they've got doctors, journalists, first women, scholars, acrobats. Literally everyone is talking about, could there be a link between these two? Newspaper headlines announce that the mystery of Denise Pipitone is resolved and also that she's been found. So there's literally, when you go searching for stories, there's, those are the headlines, and it's actually, incredible. The mayor of Mazara at the time, Giorgio Maccadino, said, "Our hope is that Alicia is really Denise so we can heal that wound that opened 17 years ago and never closed. I still remember those dark and indelible moments for the entire Mazara community, which marked a deep wound in my heart." So the lawyer Giacomo agrees to participate and signs a confidentiality agreement to keep the results a mystery until the TV show airs approximately a week after the first show. It's so weird. She also gets agreement from the TV show to share the results with the family before the show airs so as not to blackmail a family who are desperate for answers. And blackmail was a word I saw in one of the stories, but essentially they're trying to protect the family whilst having this thing play out on international TV. It's almost become a bit of a game show. So Piera, the mum, is not involved in the follow-up show but puts out a statement. We want to stay with our feet on the ground, cautiously hopeful, because past reports have shown us that the illusion leads to nothing. We want to know the truth and await the outcome of the test. So, with much fanfare, on the 7th of April 2021, the second show airs. And it's revealed that Alicia has a different blood type to Denise and that she's in fact not Denise. I can only imagine how hard that would be for the parents.
Yeah.
So then in 2022, a local mafia boss was jailed. So they've got a mafia boss from the area who's been in charge for 30-odd years.
He's retired.
He goes to jail, and so the family put out a they put out a public plea asking him to assist with the case, not because they think he's involved, but because being the mafia boss for that period of time, they reckon that nothing got past him. So he would have heard any whisperings of what might have happened. To date, he hasn't responded, and so they've got nothing from there. There is a blog that the family is still running called Missing Denise Pipitone, and it's still updated regularly. Like I looked at it, and there are plenty of posts from September this year. So they're still very active trying to find little Denise. And there are things where they say that they think she's still alive.
She'd be 23 now, wouldn't she?
Yep. She was born in 2000.
Yeah, she would. But so to date, nothing more. So that's the story.
So sad.
There's nothing more to share. She's lost.
That's horrendous.
Well, it's like Madeleine McCann, isn't it?
And there was a lot, when I Googled this, there was a lot about similarities between those two.
Yeah. Well, I think going back to your point about just the sheer number of children that go missing, we hear of the McCann child. I didn't know about this one, but some of them get the publicity and others just are lost forever. It's so awful and sad. It's terrible.
The publicity thing is really interesting because there was a lot about that too, about why this one was so prevalent and so spread across the media, whereas others, I mean, God, there's 20,000 in Australia that go missing every year. Most of those, the vast majority never make it. Now, some of them are runaways, some of them are found. But, it's interesting as to what makes it hit the media.
What do you think happened, Clarky?
Because, again, I found it quite hard to find the facts that would give you anything. And I guess it really is a good story of someone who is truly missing. They've just vanished. And there's the security guard footage, which seems to be the only evidence and the most reliable one, which puts Denise with a Romani woman.
Romani.
And so, Romani woman. So I think that's my best guess at what happened, that she was actually...
Yeah, but I was just thinking about it, like, what? Romanis can't produce their own children to beg? This idea of literally your children being stolen by gypsies is weird.
That was my next question, which is it just a stereotypical
that sounds
racist?
Yeah. I mean, I remember I have been, I've seen a lot of gypsy kids in Italy, and you always warned about their pickpockets and whatever.
Yeah.
But to steal other people's children to, like, in an Oliver Twist kind of fashion, these Romani Fagans, it just seems bizarre, far-fetched, really. Actually.
Yeah. So I think the thing is that she likely ended up with them. Wasn't necessarily taken by them.
That would work if she was, in fact, kidnapped by the jealous Jessica and I kept wanting Anna Karenina.
Yeah.
Every time you said her name, I was thinking Anna Karenina. Anna Corona. If she was, in fact, taken by two young women, basically, there's a possibility that they just said, here, take this kid, we want her gone kind of thing. It's just odd. I mean, I'd be more inclined to think she was snatched by the kind of people who probably took Maddie McCann, like horrendous pedophile sex ring type people.
And that's where you kind of go with it, because if it was the Romanis that she ended up with, you would think, why did she disappear still?
Yeah.
Where did she go from there? But that bit of footage with the security guard is as concrete as the evidence gets. And not to say that it's concrete, but that is it's
a child who looks like
where
her.
they go, she's got the scratch, the similarities are there. They're calling her Denise instead of Denise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities.
Frankly, I'd prefer it if that is
kind of
with
leads
her.
you to go, well, at some point that happened.
Yeah, you'd kind of hope, you sort of think, well, maybe she's safer, or I don't know, who knows.
And imagine what that does for the parents then, who go, well, maybe she is still alive. And this is why, 20 years later,
it's like the McCanns, they can't give up hope.
They're still very active trying to find her.
They won't give up hope. They're still searching. And they've had years of people, the media, talking about them in disparaging terms about how that came about and whether they had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And they are just people who've lost their beautiful little girl.
It comes back to the Romanis. Is there a situation whereby that's what they do? So this would be to type, as there are clearly traffickers and pedophiles who steal children for, the black market, which is definitely true, trafficking children and, young women and whatever, anybody really. Are these, I feel very naive. Is that all real stuff that not just in movies? I know it's just the scale of it. When you're talking about those numbers, I just can't get my head around that. It's terrifying.
So there's certainly, I saw a whole lot of percentages around the breakdown of what the numbers represent. But again, like I was saying at the start and similar to the financials, I saw things that said very different numbers of children going missing or being reported as missing. And so it's hard to work it out. But the percentage who actually go missing as a result of criminal activity is quite low, as in I think one of the statistics I saw said 0.59% or something. So small, but in a country where there's 11,000 kids going missing every day, it's still 55 kids a year. Sorry, 11,000 going missing every year. It's still 50 odd kids a year that are going missing as a result of criminal activity, which is huge. I would have thought. I would have had no idea that number would go missing.
Back to your question, no. There is no evidence that Romanis go around stealing people's children.
Have you just found that saying road gypsies really have done so have I at the same time?
No.
An age-old folk story.
The gypsies are coming. They're coming to steal your horses.
That's what we used to say all the time. But I think the question is still valid, not
your children. They're coming to steal your children.
We are the gypsies. We're coming to steal your horses.
It's a quote from something, I'm sure. But anyway.
Oh, I don't know it.
Not helping the stereotype.
No, but I think if you take the Romani part out of it, the reason I was going down the line I was talking about with the small number or small percentage that go missing is that I think there is definitely a market for trafficking of children. If you take the Romani bit out of it, there is money to be made. And if you're one of those
if you're a
types
pedophile,
of people who are involved in that,
trafficker or sex trafficker, absolutely there's money to be made. Sorry, the reason I laughed as you were talking was because that quote was actually one from the Goodies. We are the gypsies coming to steal your horses.
We're going to take it.
And that's just our age group. That's why we both knew it. Sorry, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm sure there's money in other people's children, but I'm with you in terms of take the gypsies and the Romanis out of it. I think that is probably just buying into an old stereotype. And, there's nothing to say that Romani children aren't trafficked and stolen from Romanis,
100%. But what I'm saying is that if coincidentally the shit person was a Roma woman who was doing the trafficking, it would explain the security guard piece of evidence. So if Denise was taken and given to somebody to be trafficked who coincidentally happened to be a Roma woman, maybe that did happen. I don't know. It's really, really hard because there's literally no evidence. She,
we
no
just
one
don't
saw
know.
her getting taken off the street. She just disappeared, and that just must be heartbreaking.
I think that's when things like this stuff about, it's easier for people to think that something like that, it's the gypsies. I mean, it's just old tropes, isn't it, really, about people who are not in a position to, it's easier to say that, and it whips up more fear, more distrust of certain people.
Yeah, it could have just been a dirty pedo.
I'm sure that's much more likely.
But imagine what that does for the family too, with Jessica going to court 3 times. If she wasn't involved,
I'm actually interested in that. It seems to me like they latched on to this idea of, well, there's a motive, therefore you must have done something. It feels almost like the work and the focus moved from trying to find the child to, we've just got to find someone to blame. And so let's make sure that Jessica, Alice, whatever, goes to court on this. There's no evidence that, the child has been kidnapped, but we don't know by whom. And do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, well, she's gone, we can't find her, so let's just find someone to string up for it.
And Darwin probably picked her up and took her up to Durham train station. It's that easy. Pick her up in the car, off she's gone. End of story.
Don Jarwin.
And Darwin.
Yeah. And Darwin and Don Jarwin.
Yeah.
Don Jarwin.
Don Jarwin. I mean, that's that because this is sort of, I know we're sort of harking back to that last story, but there are crimes that are so ridiculous, like the one that I just covered, right? Where they got a bit lucky in a couple of situations and some people were quiet, because they weren't successful truly in, being clever or covert about what they were trying to do. I mean, it's so obvious, it's embarrassing to look back at for anyone who was involved, and wasn't able to pick up any of the things like where had her car been, where had they, where was all that? Anyway, so you've got something like that where it's actually all there for you if you want it. But a crime like this, you just don't know.
Snatched,
and
gone.
It's just like, and that's what is so heartbreaking, I find, about these things, where it just goes cold and you don't know which direction or where the child's gone. I think, I can't remember what year it was, and I think it might have been just before my eldest son was born as a Madeleine McCann thing happened, because it has had such a
2006?
profound impact. Yeah, well, Alex born in 2007. Yeah. I've had such a profound impact on me that when we travel, and I still do this, I
padlock
make sure
the children to you.
Yeah. No, but certainly when we're in any accommodation, we're ever in villas and that, I will always sleep with the kids. I don't, if it's 2 stories, I have to be able to be near them. And someone has to, when the kids were younger, we had help and whatever else, everybody had to be slept in the same room and accounted for wherever we were, somewhere I didn't know we were that wasn't our own home. I've got massive phobia about my kids going to public toilets, particularly again when we're traveling, because it's not often that you're using public toilets when you're at home. I know that sounds weird, but when you're traveling and you're doing things, you've got, especially with 3 boys, there have been so many. I must have taken those kids into ladies' toilets. So it was way too late. I had to see everybody.
Swanee,
this is where we go.
70% of children who go missing in Italy are foreigners, so that's not a bad thing.
But it's things like that where, we were laughing about the day, someone had gone off to the toilet and we're sending them, go and check on your brother, make sure, just because, and everyone, and it's like, I know it's ridiculous, but it's not, I know you're getting a bit old for it, but still, you're sweet meat, somebody might want to take you. So it has a big impact on parents when, you try and do the right thing, but and as much as we do all this kind of stuff, still there'll be situations where if someone wanted to take somebody,
they can.
There are plenty of other opportunities where they could, where we're not watching, or certainly out there. It still happens, and it's it makes my blood run cold.
Schmitty, back to your bit around Jessica and that kind of need to prosecute. The only thing because I can understand that completely, and I see that as well. The only thing I guess that works against that is, again, the innuendo of the phone conversations that were tapped. So there's strange things going on there.
But to tap them in the first place was because they were seeking to find someone to blame.
Well, I mean, or seeking to solve the crime. And there was evidence of Anna and Jessica behaving inappropriately towards Piera. Probably coming back to what Swanee was saying, that the whole thing is just rumour and misinformation.
That's right. It's not actually evidence.
And
it's just a bitch fight. It's a scrag fight.
Correct.
And this poor child has either been a victim of the circumstances of that scrag fight or not even related to it, like just taken by some weirdo stranger.
Part of what I was trying to say at the start is the impact of this on the family and the people around the child too. I mean, obviously it's terrible for what's happened to Denise, but the way this is played out with the family and I don't know, it's...
Yeah. Well, it's impossible to... Well, very difficult to sentence it too because we don't know who it is. But I'm just going to do a generic kind of sentence to pedophile, sex trafficking assholes that they can all just burn.
How would they burn? What's the... is it just in a big fire or is it a slow roasting over coals?
Well, it's not just a little bit of sunburn, I can tell you that. It's not just a light,
okay.
bit of UV exposure. I don't know, something that's maybe stake them out. I was just thinking about the sun. Maybe stake them out and have a big, a magnifying glass, and they can be burnt like ants. With you use the magnifying glass to really pinpoint the sun. And you can stake these horrible,
recall those days,
nasty individuals that should, frankly, not exist. Just
I don't think we ever get enough sort of visuals on who these people are. It's funny because just yesterday, the other day when I was thinking about what crime I wanted to cover next, because we had been talking about this with the kids because we were travelling last week, it was the first thing that came to mind. And I always struggle a little bit with these crimes because it's difficult, right, to talk about crimes when it involves children in particular.
Yeah.
We often say that. So I thought, I won't go and look at that because I'm sure there's a plethora of them there. But, there's so many other people that are, we have a clear vision of that's what type of criminal that person is, that's who that is. And I often say to the kids, apparently with pedophiles more often than not, it's people that are in plain sight. It's not always the people who are the bad guys who, it's going to look like this or whatever else.
Oh, no, because they groom generally.
Yes, that's right. So I do feel like we need more the public face of pedophilia. Who is it? I want to see more, because we don't often get to.
That's the difficulty, right? Because it could just look like Uncle Blah Blah and, and then you're in danger of everyone looking at everyone thinking everyone's a pedophile.
Yes, but there was an example maybe this year, certainly it was last year, it wasn't long ago, where, on the news they show all these homes being raided in Australia. And, it's all like people, covered up, you can't tell who it was. And then I don't hear about what then happens afterwards. Oh, it was an international effort to find what these people were doing online. And then nothing.
And then silence, yeah.
Yes, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, what happened? I mean,
it's true.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's the thing. It feels like I hear this stuff. Oh, we've found this with the help of people from the US and this, and we've located this in Australia doing that. Okay, so those people, we never get names, we never see pictures of who these are, nothing really, and then nothing.
If you look up www.communityprotection.wa.gov.au, you can actually do a local area search of the registered sex offenders in your area, which includes photographs. There you go.
Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. What was it again?
www.communityprotection.wa.gov.au. There you are.
What did you search?
I looked up.
I feel like it's a Clown Passions reference again.
I looked up, sex offenders register in my area.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one in Melbourne, but there's certainly one in WA. There you go.
Wow, let's have a look.
Clarky, any kind of sentence for anyone?
Oh, see, for me, the Russian TV show, I just can't come at that. That whole thing of let's do a follow-up episode to make this result found is
disappointed in that
awful.
Story because I was hoping that some connection to Natalia, the dwarf child from our Child or Chucky episode was going to happen. And I was like, that fizzled out. That didn't go where I was hoping. Yeah, that was a shame. Yeah. Can't come at that.
Yeah. No, I can't come at that. Imagine being a TV producer and going, you know what? There's a potential that this child is that missing child. What we need to do is have a follow-up episode.
Do it privately.
We can't just do
it privately.
That's
right.
manage this discreetly. We've got to make money out of it.
Jeremy Kyle? Was that Jeremy Kyle?
Yeah, I think so.
That kind of, shock TV, just, disgusting. Yeah. No, okay, fair enough. Yeah, what are you going to do to them then?
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. There's a complete lack of empathy from them towards
family and anyone impacted by it. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Even the girl herself.
I don't know. It needs to be. Swanee, what would you do to someone who lacked empathy?
There would have been a way to handle that if they were genuinely thinking it might be the case, and if it was, the right authorities were involved, it would have been done not on TV. They might have filmed it with the idea of it perhaps being shared in documentary style if it were to come together, but not to do it like that kind of, it'd be like a game show kind of, what a surprise, big reveal, that's very tacky.
Yeah.
So what would you do to them?
I don't know what I would do to them, to be honest. I just shouldn't have happened. I think, sue them. I know that's not particularly Trial by Wine.
Could it be a game show called I'm a shit TV producer?
Get me out of here.
Get me out of here, or
no, I probably would. I think
or punish me,
suing them and put them out of
and
there,
they get just random people to come and
blacklisting them so they can't do what they do. It should be a violation of. I don't know what a violation of though. People have agreed to do it because they want to do it. It's tricky. No, I don't think it's right, but not having it. You're not having it.
No, I'm putting them on Naked and Afraid XL, and they've got to do 40 days and 40 nights in the Siberian wilderness naked and afraid. There you go. That's what I'd do to them.
Right. Yeah. I like it. Let's go with that, a collective sentence.
That's what I'd do to them. And maybe I'll do that to all the nasty pedophiles and nasty people.
Maybe you could just put them on a reality TV program and make them produce that.
Yes.
As a punishment.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was, a frustrating and disturbing and sad case. And I just hope that little Denise is alive and well somewhere in the world and eventually is reconnected with her family. It's very sad. Yep.
So sad. I mean, imagine being the grandmother, the auntie, all the people that last ever said, you destroyed so many lives.
She was only 4.
That whole thing is
just tragic. Yeah. So thanks for nothing, Clarky. Enjoy your time in Buenos Aires. And we will, I think, see you when you are in Santiago. Where in the world is Carmen Santiago? In a few weeks' time. So, though for our listeners, it will feel like that time was very fast. As we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, darling.
Ta-ta.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from Pixabay.com.